I recently got my hands on this Ayaneo AM02 mini PC, which they call part of their retro line. And with their new tagline being real gamers, no gamers, I obviously wanted to know how well this games. So we're going to compare it to my current PC setup, but it might be a little bit unfair because my current PC contains this. This is an AMD Radeon RX 6600. And as you can see, just for size comparison, only the graphics card is already a lot bigger than this entire mini PC. But with this supposedly being a gaming PC, I wanted to see if I can save a ton of space on my desk by using this and maybe not playing on high settings instead of having to use an entire PC where just the graphics card is already a bunch bigger and heavier. So let's get started with testing. This is my current PC setup, and you can see the PC takes up quite a bit of space. So imagine we could save all of that space by only having the mini PC down here and having all of the rest of my desk just for, let's say, some speakers instead of having to save space and also all of the cables. Because this I already hooked up to the mouse and keyboard, it's already hooked up to the monitor in the back, and we don't have this entire mess of cables that we have with the larger PC. So my current PC already isn't the biggest because I built it with a mini ITX motherboard, SFX power supply, and obviously the case is just big enough to also fit a full-size graphics card, but you can tell that the cooler here is a lot bigger than anything that could be in the mini PC. I think this might be almost the same size as the mini PC as a whole. But we'll see how it goes, because we have a Ryzen 5 5600X cooled by this Noctua tower cooler. We have a 750 watt power supply and obviously the RX 6600. And we'll see how this compares with, I don't have any intake fans installed yet, that might come later on down here. But we do have two exhaust fans helping with cooling. And this thing only has the one small fan that's already built in. So I just started up the big PC, and you can't hear a thing. This thing is super quiet. It's almost silent. So to make everything as fair as possible, we're going to try to replicate the settings on both the big PC and the mini PC. And I think we're gonna just set everything to the HyperRX Eco preset to make sure that the big PC doesn't run on pure power and the mini PC has a chance to survive. Here I set the max FPS to 330 frames per second, because that's twice what this display can do. And you can see that we only have anti-lag, the FPS limit, and a 10-bit pixel format for this display. That's all the settings we're gonna have activated. Everything else is set to default settings. We're gonna start our testing with some esports titles. We'll start with Valorant because we can see the overlay in-game with how many FPS we are getting and if we're losing any network connections. So I think this will be a great test, and also it is optimized to run on low-end hardware. So this is giving the mini PC a better chance to show us what it can do. This time we're playing some Valorant to get some esports games in here as well. And just keep your eye on the FPS counter here at the top. We are using 1440p, graphics quality set to low, UI quality medium, and anisotropic filtering is set to 1x, anti-aliasing none. So just so we can compare this to the other one later on. Seems to be doing fine, even with all the effects on screen, etc. Oh, my computer froze. Well, that's fun. Okay. Let's see if it works this time. Okay, seems to be working fine. Let's test the mini PC. We're currently running a Valorant game plus screen recording on OBS. And again, it's pretty quiet. The entire PC doesn't make a lot of noise, which I think is great. And that's the big advantage of having such a big case with a big cooler. And we'll see how the mini PC does once we get to playing on that thing. So now I'm going to do the screen recording and I'll show you guys the FPS later on. So let's start testing the mini PC. We start by turning it on, obviously, and now just listen. So we're just starting it up, that's all we're doing. So we are set to AAA game mode, which means we have maximum performance unlocked. And you can see we have a cool performance overview here on the screen. We can also swipe across to get date and time. Or you can turn up and down the volume. You can even turn off this little screen if you want to. I like to have it on the performance overlay just to make sure we see what's going on. Also, if you need some extra I/O, you press this button. And that's when it reveals its secrets. So here you can see one of the issues, and it's already gotten a lot better than it used to be, which is the download speed of the mini PC. This time it's actually downloading at over 1 megabyte per second. It usually downloads with a few kilobytes per second. So something about, I've already downloaded most of the games and everything that I use usually, but sometimes you do have to update your games. And for some reason the networking in this mini PC is horrible. Just the Wi-Fi antenna must, I don't know what it is, but it does not want to work with our Wi-Fi. I have set it up to be connected to the Ethernet, but I don't have any Ethernet here. But when I do hook it up to the Ethernet, downloads are blazing fast, so that's no problem. But just download speeds over Wi-Fi are horrible. And this is like not even, let's say it's about 10% of what you can get on a better networking card. So we are now playing on the mini PC, and again we are in Valorant. And immediately here at the top we have network problems and high average ping. Also the packet loss graph keeps spiking. Every time we do something there's a huge spike. So let's see, what settings are we at? 1440p, 144 Hz because it's the HDMI output. Graphics quality, low, 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 low. Even the UI quality. This was on medium on the other one, so let's make sure that's the same. This is all the same. Okay, well, let's see if we can run this at 1440p. Most likely not. This is not made for 1440p gaming, but we can try. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about with the bad networking, bad Wi-Fi. I don't know what it is, if it's the Wi-Fi card, if it's just not compatible with our router that we have. But you can see there's lots of lag. Yeah, this is pretty bad. So if you're not connected to Ethernet, then I cannot recommend playing online games on this. You can... It sometimes even continues firing when I'm not even clicking the mouse anymore, so... It's a mess. Just online games in general, it's a huge mess. Let's see, if we go down to 1080p, I don't think that's gonna improve things at all. Still 1080p low now. Yeah, the lags are still... So networking is this computer's biggest problem. We do not have the network capabilities to play online games, neither fluidly nor just haphazardly. It's just pretty bad. It's non-responsive. The entire thing just froze. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, that's what happens, I guess. So, even though Valorant is kind of made for low-spec PCs, I cannot recommend it. Just because of the networking. If you have a good Ethernet connection, then this might be fine, but I really can't tell, so let's test something else. And just to confirm that everything is set the same, it's also on HyperRX Eco, 330 FPS as a limit, anti-lag is activated, and also we only have FreeSync Premium activated, no GPU scaling, nothing, and 10-bit pixel format, the same as before. That's everything we have. So it should be the same settings as on the big PC. But this time, graphics is again set to 1440p, and let's go to low, default. So it's set to low, 1440p low. Let's see if we can keep up with it. Let's set it up to 60 FPS. And again, we're doing the exact same thing that we did on the bigger PC as well. If you have a look here at the top, you can see that we are at over 200 milliseconds delay. Not even switching characters is working at the moment, and you can hear the PC is spooling up like crazy. CPU usage is relatively low. GPU usage is almost maxed out. We're using 44 watts of the maximum 45 watts that we can on this computer, and still it's just internet connection issues every time. So this is what happens when you try to play online games on this computer. It's never been this bad before, but I'm not surprised. So, we are playing on the big PC this time, and I made sure that you can see the overlay with the FPS, etc. up here. We are playing at 1440p high default settings. This is with the AMD RX 6600. We are not recording internally or doing a screen recording to make sure that we actually have the best performance. And I'm just gonna go fight a boss real quick so you can see how the performance holds up when there's a lot going on the screen. So just watch the top left corner to see the frames per second, etc. So the only time we actually have drops in frames per second is when we enter menus, etc. But if we're just playing, then it's fixed at 60 basically. Okay, so anytime you open a menu you get a frame time spike. Other than that, it's almost perfect. So just for our mini PC to even have a fair chance of playing any games at all, we've had to move to the upstairs office. We are right next to the router, and we are actually connected via Ethernet this time. Funnily enough, this left port gives me full Ethernet speed, this right one does not. I have no idea why. And you can hear it does get pretty loud because the fan is a lot smaller. So it has to do a lot more work to keep everything cool. So this time we're actually hooked up to Ethernet, and this seems to make a huge difference. We don't constantly have packet loss. We can actually move through the level. It's still a little bit stuttery. Let's see. Video settings. We are still low, medium, off. VSync on, 1x. Experimental sharpening also off. And we are at 1440p, so this might still be a little bit difficult for this computer. But this time it's not lagging like last time. So we can actually use skills, we can move around. We're not stuck or just teleporting through space without doing anything. So you could actually play the game. So 1440p, low settings, we're getting 60 FPS. It seems to be locked there because this is a different display. This can only actually do 60 frames per second. That's something we have to change the display for because it can only do 60 Hz. But we are not limiting the FPS in the game by itself. So at least that's actually working now. Let's see if we can actually do the level this time without dying to lag. Let's see. Seems to be working fine. 60 FPS, no problem. So once you're actually hooked up to Ethernet, you can actually play Valorant without any issues. So let's go plant the spike. This time it's a skill issue, not a lag issue. Perfect. Perfect. So once you're connected to Ethernet, things actually work. So we are currently in matchmaking for an actual game, and we're only drawing about 30 watts. And just to show you, we are actually in AAA game mode, FPS is unlimited, wattage is set to 45 watts, so the max we can, and also fan is set to max. So in this mode it's going to be a bit louder than it usually is. But just as a reminder, we can draw 45 watts. We are only drawing about 20 to 30 watts at the moment. Let's see how it develops during the game. We are now at 1080p medium settings, so if you do not have a 1440p display, then you can still play this at pretty decent settings. So 1080p medium. Again, the 60 FPS is a limitation from the display. The display is only a 60 Hz one. So if you have a higher refresh rate 1080p monitor, it should work just fine. It's very responsive, there's no lag, there's no stuttering. You can see the frame time graph is very, very consistent. It's a flat line, which is exactly what we want. So this time we're back again in Genshin, but we are actually connected to them. Let's see, 1440p. Let's go with medium. Medium seems to be a bit much for this tiny PC, which makes sense. Let's see if we can hit 60. 1440p, low settings. We're trying to hit 60 FPS. It actually seems to be able to hold those 60 FPS pretty well. Apart from menus, once again. Well, so the biggest limitation that this mini PC has is the networking, as I suspected. Once we actually get hooked up to Ethernet, you can see we are drawing 42 of a maximum of 45 watts, so we're close to the power limit. But we can actually get some decent gaming out of this if you're not into AAA titles. We are back down in the original office where we started this entire thing off, and because the networking is so horrible on this mini PC, we have one last option. That is a USB to Wi-Fi antenna. It's gonna kill a lot of the sex appeal of this mini PC, but I don't really see how we have any other option. So I'll install this right here. Let's see. Oh, this looks bad. This looks really bad. But let's see if this makes it any better to be able to play at least Genshin Impact and some Valorant. Those are like the two minimum games that a PC needs to be able to play for it to be viable for me. So we're back in Genshin Impact one last time, this time with the ugly USB Wi-Fi. So graphics are still 1440p set to low, but we went up to 60. And this time it looks to be running a lot better. So we are actually getting enough of a Wi-Fi signal to be able to do stuff. Let's see if this keeps up though. There's still a little bit of a lag, but it's gotten a lot better. So at least it's playable, I guess. Anytime there is a loading screen, the cooler gets very, very loud. There is still a little bit of a delay, but it's gotten at least playable. But not much more than that, to be honest. I don't know if it would be able to hold up to playing co-op, so if you're playing together with your friends, it might not be able to keep up with that, just because there's too much going on all at once and having to load 4 different players doing different things. But if you just want to have a chill day, play for yourself, I think it's fine. Okay, so GPU is almost maxed out. We're drawing as much power as we can. So it's playable at 1440p. 1080p, low settings, it still looks fine. And it runs fine as well. We're running at 60 FPS almost all the way through. We are back in Valorant. Let's see if this time we can actually play, or if we keep having those lag issues. Ah yes, we are already getting warnings for high average ping and network problems. Well, as you can see, we have invincible bots. Oh, there we go. Looks like it's not really gonna work if you're playing on anything other than an Ethernet connection. I was very positively surprised with how well all the games ran on Ethernet, but as long as you're not physically hooked up to a network, this just isn't worth it at all. Oh, it even kicked us out of the practice session. So the connection is bad enough, even with the USB Wi-Fi antenna, that we just got kicked out. Well, that's disappointing, but it is what it is.